Okay, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of folks here for our public hearing this evening. However, hi, are you looking for the public hearing or planning?
Planning.
Main conference room. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, come on in, we tried to drag it up. I will open up this public hearing and bear with me, thank you. I'll call the public hearing to order, and I'd ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will take a roll call.
Councilmember Gully.
Here.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Steele.
Here.
Councilmember Cummings.
Here.
Councilmember Zalewski.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Council President Mantello.
Here.
7 present, none absent.
Council President, I move that the council resolve itself into a committee of the whole for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Okay, and clerk, if you could read the publication.
Public hearings shall be held regarding a local law to add a section to the city code authorizing the creation of a community choice aggregation program and adopting provisions to facilitate program implementation. Said public hearings shall be held on Thursday, February 20th at 5:30 p.m., Tuesday, February 25th at 5:30 p.m., and Thursday, March 5th at 6:30 p.m. in Council Chambers, Troy City Hall, 433 River Street, Troy, New York. All interested parties may be heard. Complete copies of the proposed local law are available online and at the City Clerk's office for public inspection beginning February 10th, 2020.
Thank you, and I would ask anyone who is interested in coming up to the podium to speak on this public hearing. It's a new proposal that the council is presently looking at, and we've asked Mega. Hi, are you here for the public hearing? Would you like to speak?
No, thank you.
Oh, bummer. Please no. Since we just have a little time, I would ask Mika to come to the podium, and we are on YouTube, so for folks watching this, maybe you could just give a quick, like a 2-minute briefing on what exactly the city is looking at. Then maybe talk about, I'm interested to know where other municipalities are, and obviously you don't have to go through all through the other 11 or 12. And then we'll announce, just for folks, the next neighborhood meetings and public meetings. Okay?
Okay, great. Hi, thank you for having me. My name's Katie Vecchio. I believe I met many of you before, but for the first time seeing many of you, so thanks for having me. So the Community Choice Aggregation Program that is building in the capital region, Troy is one of 13 municipalities that is exploring this program. The City of Albany is also in the midst of establishing their local law, and they have a committee meeting tonight to move that proposed local law out of committee and move it forward in the process. We've got in front of you, I provided a draft of our education and outreach efforts in the city of Troy to date. There are many more different public meetings and education sessions planned, as well as the public hearings listed here, and I'll update that with the dates that the clerk read. Thank you for those. So, we've had a lot of great community engagement in our neighborhood association meetings in Lansingburg, Osgood, the Little Italy neighborhood, and coming up next week on the east side and at the public library. So we're pleased to see residents really engaging and learning more about what community choice aggregation is and how it would work in the city of Troy, and have had a lot of great questions and follow-up as well, phone calls and things like that. So I mentioned the City of Albany is doing their local law at the same time. City of Waterville has their local law public hearing tonight, and they will pass their local law 2 weeks from tonight. The City of Saratoga Springs and the Village of Altamont have since passed their local law since the beginning of the year. So we're nearing the finish line as we get to the first week in March to have all 13 communities approve.
This is very helpful, Katie.
Yes.
Just so folks out there are aware of our process, we do have the 3 public hearings this evening, obviously. Then our next is the 25th. That's our second public hearing. We have a neighborhood meeting at Franklin Terrace next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Troy Farmers Market, that is Councilmember Cummings are they going to have a booth? I take it.
Yes.
Katie?
Yeah, we had a community table last week and again this coming week.
Okay.
Lots of traffic. 20 just represents the number of kind of in-depth conversations. People stopped to ask more questions, but a lot of people took materials and it's been a good way to get exposure.
Do you have people sign up at all or no?
Sometimes people would prefer to get emailed the information, so they sign a sheet, but mostly people will, take a handout, look at it, ask a few questions, have a small conversation, and then they head on to buy their veggies.
We do have a general services meeting next Tuesday, and the implementation plan and a resolution for the public outreach is on that agenda. And hopefully you'll be going through that, correct?
Exactly.
Perfect.
As well as the opt-out letter.
Mhm.
That'll be our opportunity to make any edits and changes if we want to make sure that we're communicating clearly to all the residents. I think it's a pretty good draft, but we'll have our touch on it as well.
Awesome. And
That's great.
I like that because we'll obviously be able to talk about it at that meeting, and also the implementation plan. I did notice a banner was scheduled to be in that. Is that where would that be?
Oh, to hang a banner?
Yeah.
So we have
outreach.
We have a 4x8 vinyl banner that we can provide to the city and put it in a location. I heard some discussion about that there was a spot on a fence that you might want it. Water Elite has theirs hanging on the chain link fence that abuts 787. So I don't know if there's a location, if there's someone I can provide that to, or if that's something you want us to hang, but we're happy to do so.
Maybe we could put it at like one of the major gateways.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we.
I think there are a few locations, certainly the gateway signs, I think Conway Square fence was also discussed.
Chair,
The fence was mentioned, but yeah.
Yes, council member.
I would only want to mention that a 4x8 poster isn't very expensive. And it might be in the best interest of the program to put one at every gateway coming into our city and along the major thoroughfares so people can get used to seeing the label, seeing the name.
Mm-hmm.
For the cost of the posters, it might be better to get better saturation of your information. People can start asking questions, hey, what's that? Just a thought for a couple of days.
So if you let me know who to provide them to and how many you'd like, we'd be happy to do that. I don't know if your general services people would be the ones to hang it. But yeah, just
All right, we'll talk about that. Thank you. Katie.
Thank you.
And council member Zaluski.
Council President, I actually have, one of my constituents sent a bunch of questions via the meeting, Facebook.
Mhm.
Would you oblige some questions that came in via Facebook?
Certainly.
Okay. I'm just repeating these as they came in. I'm not
Okay.
making these up myself. Okay, so the first question is, who is the administrator for the program?
Mega is the CCA administrator working with the city of Troy and the other capital region communities.
What is the service fee going to be for implementation of the program, and will the fee be distributed equally, or will municipalities that use more energy be expected to pay a larger share of the fee proportional to their use?
Is that okay? So the fee that Mega is paid, is that what he's asking? You think this
I'm not
person's
exactly sure, because I'm not aware of what the service fee is.
Sure. So a lot of people ask me this at neighborhood association meetings, kind of how does Mega make money off of this, or how do we get paid? Mega's fee for being the administrator is a fee we ask the supplier to pay. So when we put out the RFP and we receive bids from various suppliers, our fee is 0.001, so a mil, and we ask suppliers to include that in the pricing they offer. So there's no additional fee. The fee is paid equally by the suppliers that sell the electricity to the clients. They pay it to us.
And therefore distributed proportionally to the.
Correct.
It's 0.001
Yes.
of,
the overall.
Per kilowatt.
How do we explain that?
It's
Per kilowatt hour.
0.001 per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So it's based on the usage and that's across.
okay, per kWh, yeah.
Yes.
And that isn't an additional, it doesn't get charged additionally to the resident. It is included in the rate that is offered. So when you all see the pricing come back from the bid, everything is inclusive there.
The rate that we're going to vote on ultimately.
Exactly.
that fee
Includes,
is already in there.
yes, exactly. And it's nothing the city has to handle or pay. It's something the supplier pays to us. So there's never any kind of taxpayer dollars used.
Who exactly is negotiating the rate on behalf of Troy residents?
Okay, so the rate, the pricing that we get back in that bid coming from the suppliers, Mega, as your administrator, evaluates the bids and identifies the best value bidder. So we're looking at the pricing and as well as the terms. So pricing over various lengths of time. So when we do that analysis, it's a short turnaround time between when the bids come in and when we ask you all to make a decision. But we have 4 webinar opportunities, and to summarize, these are the bids we got. This is what was submitted. This is our recommendation for this is what we selected as the lowest and what we would recommend your choices
Sure.
be.
Can you hold it?
Can I just ask
Councilmember
something on
Belli,
that same question?
absolutely, yeah.
On the contract, when you negotiate with your suppliers, what do you ask of them? Just their best rate or a rate more competitive to, like, because I know all your paperwork here says better electric rates. Better than who?
Well, better than you could get if you weren't acting along with your neighbors and shopping
So
as a
better than
collective.
National Grid.
So what we factor in our bid is we calculate a price to beat. So that's a price we want all suppliers bidding to come in under, right? And it's a function of a lot of different factors. We are going to have a webinar next week. I don't know if it's on everyone's agenda, but we really want to help folks understand the process, how we craft a bid, what we're asking suppliers to the range of options we're asking them to show in our bid, because we don't know if their best price is going to be at 18 months or 22 months or 26 months. So we want to see what their best pricing is over what period of time. Okay.
One other question.
Mhm.
Is it possible that you could put in your bid to have these companies look at the fact that they would guarantee that the citizens in Troy would at least get a better rate than National Grid, even if it was only 1%, which would be a small percentile? But if you're gonna try to engage the people to save money, would it be in your best interest to try to negotiate that into your bid? We said we will expect the provider to establish a minimum guarantee of 1% off of National Grid's pricing. This way, the people in Troy are guaranteed that those rates are going to be attractive, which will bring more clients in and make the program more successful overall in the long run.
So that's a fair question. And I may have my team member Anna come up. But so and we all work in different parts of this project, but Anna's pretty knowledgeable about how the bid is going to be structured. So I just would say up front, we are asking them to provide a fixed price. So we aren't asking them to vary their price over time, dependent on the market. We are asking them to fix their costs, fix the supply rate that they'll offer.
There must be a history of yearly averages, right?
Mhm.
That you can look back at and base as your number to go after.
So absolutely. Again, sorry, my name is Anna Balujo for those who I didn't meet. I think there was a couple. So what you're comparing is a forward price. So when we go out to bid, what the suppliers will do is they will look at the purported usage, the forecasted usage of everybody in the aggregation, right? So at this point, it's like 90,000 households. Then they have to go out out to bid their supply. They have to get that supply out in the marketplace, and they have to say this power is going to be for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? And so when you're pricing something going forward, because they're providing a fixed rate, they're guaranteeing that that price is not going to change through the term of the contract, whether it's 2 years or 3 years. And there's, when you're looking at a forecast forward curve, you have to, they have to hedge that power, right? And so they have to say, well, we're going to take that risk, and this is the price that we can provide. So you're looking at the value of the program is in providing a fixed rate versus a rate that fluctuates with the utility every single month. And what that gives you is it's budget certainty, which, if you're looking at, say, in 2006, 2007, when there were these spikes, you can't do anything about that when you're in the middle of a polar vortex and, you used to pay 5 cents and now you're paying 8. There's nothing you can do. And you just have to pay that money. However, if you're under a fixed price, you can budget your life accordingly. So when you're asking whether they can, if a supplier can actually guarantee that the fixed price is going to be below the utility rate, they can't do that because they're looking forward based on historical pricing. They go back 12 months. They look at what that is. They also look at all of the load. They look at what the cost of energy is today, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, what the associated costs are that have to be included in that price, which is, all of the costs regarding, clean energy standards. That is what you see in a national grid bill is one month of that at a time. Right. And so
the fixed rate would not work for that purpose.
Exactly. So when you're looking at, if I look at a national grid bill compared to a fixed price, I'm looking at two completely different things. They're not, you want to compare them so much, but you can't, because you're looking at a forward price versus something that you're getting in 1 month.
Can we hold on that question? Did you get your question answered?
Good, thank
Can
you.
we continue rolling with these questions, or did you want to dovetail that question?
I was going to just follow up on that briefly.
Okay.
Yes.
In
okay.
terms of
Yep.
making it clear that the overall goal of the RFP is to find a price that is on average over the course of a year lower than expected national grid or expected competition prices.
It is.
I would hope.
We're not
Yes.
gonna engage with, we're not
Right.
when you come back to us with a price, we're not gonna accept it if it's not looking like it's gonna provide savings.
Mhm. Right.
And then beyond that, to the point of a guarantee, one of the unique things about this contract as compared to most ESCO contracts is that it doesn't have a long-term commitment associated with it for the individuals. And so anyone can opt out. If
Right.
it starts to become, if the energy market crashes and suddenly National Grid is getting electricity really cheap, then that's an opportunity for folks to say,
Absolutely.
let's
Going back.
come
Yeah.
out of this.
Yeah, definitely.
And I would just say, the danger in saying something like always provide a 1% savings is that then if the variable rate does increase, say to 8 cents, then they can charge you just under 8, right? So then you're guaranteeing a marginal savings, but you're not guaranteed the benefit that a fixed rate could really provide in the event of a spike. So it's different advantages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Councilmember Steele just said the fixed rate is the advantage. So,
Yeah. Because you know what you can budget for, you know what you'll pay.
Right.
Whereas the variable rate's an unknown.
it's like a mortgage.
Exactly.
And imagine anyone trying to go to the market and say, we want both, there would be a significant
Mhm.
cost to hedge against whatever might happen in the future for that.
Yeah.
And that would increase the baseline. period.
Absolutely. And it's so difficult for individual residents to go out to these suppliers and say, give me a fixed price and let me leave at any time over the next 2 years. They wouldn't do it. So we can get those types of things when we work in an aggregation. So that's, trying to get
Makes sense.
the benefit. Mhm.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Council President. So I just had 3 other questions from my constituents, continuing along that line of questioning that we started earlier. How are citizens going to be notified of any change or ability to opt out? What's the process? of
Okay.
notification?
So the opt-out process, after the city decides on what rate to offer and whether or not to go forward, we engage in a second round of education and outreach, similar to the one we're in now. It's a 30-day period before an opt-out period begins. So after 30 days of education and outreach, a letter is sent. It will be signed by the mayor on Troy letterhead. That's what this draft opt-out letter that you're approving now is. And now it's in draft form because the Public Service Commission is going to approve it and say, okay, this looks good. But it's not final until we put the pricing in it, the terms, the length, and everything.
PSC actually acts.
Oh,
that
DPS.
quickly.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
The
Okay.
DPS, the agency. Sorry, not the
Normally,
not the
okay.
commission.
Okay.
But the state regulators are looking at that draft opt-out letter. And it's got some blanks because we can't fill it in until we know how long the term is, what the supplier is, what the opt-out number is to call, and it will provide them a means to opt out by either mailing back a card, calling a number, or going on a website. They have 30 days to opt out before the program even starts. And then once it does start, that opt-out number never goes away. That's the number folks call if they want to opt in. That's the number they call if they want to opt out or ask questions of the supplier that will be serving them.
So you answered the second of the 3 questions, which is what is the exact procedure for opting out? I think you explained
Okay.
that. And then finally, is the priority for program adoption based solely on lowering cost or moving toward clean energy regardless of pricing impact? And the example he gave was Westchester, where I believe the priority was on the change of energy to clean energy. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons that that elected officials may want to create this program and do it. And I think there's many advantages. If your community wants to find a way to support renewable electricity, this is a powerful way to do it. If your community wants to provide better access to better terms and conditions and rates and a better electricity buying situation for your residents to have another option, that's a good reason to do it. Another reason that many communities do this is because they've been plagued by door-to-door sales or predatory marketers that they know are scamming some of their residents. And they say, if we set up a CCA, this is one step towards protecting vulnerable residents that either don't know that they've been brought into a contract with a supplier or that feel like that's all their option is. I can either buy from National Grid or I can buy from this company and I don't know anything about them. So those are the reasons when I think as an elected official, you're considering whether or not to move forward with something like this. Do I want to support renewable electricity on a widespread basis? Do I want to protect, people in the community who may be falling prey to these scams? Do I want to make a decision about where our electricity comes from? Because right now, National Grid makes that decision. So do you want to take those decision-making opportunities into your own hands?
Awesome, thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
Anyway, one other question. It's a 2-year program, am I right? Is that the contract for 2 year?
It should be around. It may be a bit shorter or a bit longer, depending on the best price we get.
So when after that first term ends, we'll negotiate a new term, or will it just continue like?
We will go out to bid again.
So go out to bid again.
And we will ask, so your local law will already be on the books, and we'll ask for a recommitment that you want to continue with this program. And once we have that commitment from the communities, we may gain more. As other capital region communities want to come in, we'll go out to bid in a similar process.
Okay, and I'm sure the residents will want to know this answer. If they decide in the first term that they want to opt out of the program, when that term ends and you negotiate a new contract, will they have to opt out again? Or once they opt out of the program, are they just saying, hey, I want to stay where I'm at, I'm happy, leave me alone? How does that work?
That's a good question, and I I would think that they might have to opt out again because there's the opportunity for having a whole new supplier. It's a whole new program, right? We're going out to bid again, new suppliers bid. We may have a totally different program by then as well if you make change, if there are regulatory changes. So yes, after the first term, we'll have kind of some reports, some look back analysis, how did it go, and then the opportunity to move forward with the program again in a second phase.
Yeah, they'll
Thank you.
definitely have to
Yeah.
opt out again, after the bid's done.
Yep.
Because you're going back out to bid.
Yeah.
And I am going to look at the local law. What was the expiration, at the end of the law? Do you have it in front of you?
I think the law expires.
Mm.
And then, Councilmember McPherson, do you have the expiration? It should be at the end of the local law. I don't have it in front of me.
I don't have it.
And my phone just died.
Can I ask my question while you're looking?
I think you might be thinking of the administrative agreement that has a kind of a set term. I don't believe that you have in your effective date of the law. I think it's an open-ended.
So the administrative agreement expires upon the termination of the first
Agreement,
contract.
a contract, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Thank you. Just to touch on what you were saying, as far as if they have to opt out all over again. At one of the meetings I was at, I wasn't under the assumption that's the way they were portraying it. They were saying that if you choose that you do not want to join this, you can contact National Grid and put a block.
That's correct.
And
That's a really good point.
You put a block on it, and once you have the block on your, you cannot go back and change it. You as a consumer are the one in control of.
Correct.
So
So opting out is done with the supplier, and putting a freeze on your account is done, or a block on your account is done with the utility.
Correct.
So for someone who really hates the idea of this, doesn't want anything to do with it, doesn't want to get an opt out, knows right now before we even have a program that they don't want to do it, they have that option to put a block or a freeze on their account with the utility.
correct.
And until they take that down, yes, they will not be eligible. They won't get an opt out letter because they'll be considered
They will
ineligible.
not have to have the option of
That's
the
correct.
next time
Thank
it's
you.
renewed. Thank you.
That's right. That's
That-
right.
I just have one more question. You said that you were at the farmer's market already,
Yes.
and you did speak to people. How many of them were Troy residents?
That's a good question. A good many, because Nicole was mostly at the booth, and I think she saw several people that she had seen in Lansingburg as well. We do get people from around the region. I couldn't give you a tally because I wasn't there for the majority of the time, but I could find that information and email it to you if you like.
I would.
Okay, we know we had conversations with 20 people. As to other people that came by and took a paper and walked, there might be more. But yeah, we can
Katie?
see
Thank you.
if they shared that information, we'll share it with you.
Thank you.
I would like to weigh in on that.
Sure.
I was actually very surprised, over the course, I want to say, of 5 or 6 months of last year, there was a petition for the plastic bag fee and the styrofoam ban.
Mhm.
And they had the petitions at various sites, but primarily they had it at the farmer's market.
Mhm.
I would say out of maybe 1,200 signatures,
Mhm.
there was probably 40% from Troy. About 40, 45. And so, a good mix. Maybe you spoke to Albany folks too, who are also considering it. But I
Mhm.
was quite surprised how many Troy folks were on that petition from the farmer's market. Before I speak, would anyone, did you get all three? Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions? Okay, Katie, I'd love to hear, where are you with other munis?
Okay.
Albany, you already told, but
Yeah.
my whole, why I ask is obviously any municipality, especially Schenectady, they have a chunk of people. Anyone that decides not to move forward is going to have an impact on that bid, on that
Absolutely.
RFP.
Absolutely. Let me just grab my list really quick. I don't know. That's okay. I'll do it from memory. Apologies.
Oh, no
So the city of Albany is in the middle of doing their local law, as are you. The city of Waterville as well. The city of Schenectady passed their local law last fall before they even selected a CCA administrator. So their local law is done. What they have to do is approve that resolution, which has a very similar education and outreach plan. The reason I don't know about all the people at the Troy market is because I was at the Schenectady market. So so we divide and conquer. Our team. We're small team.
For all the Troy
We get it done.
residents, by the way.
Exactly. No, but it really draws, I was at the Schenectady market and getting people from Altamont and Guilderland and Niskayuna. So we're getting neighboring communities, and that's positive because, like you say, we need all these communities to be in. Glens Falls, Saratoga.
Could I just ask, it's
Mhm.
so hard to hear. I don't know if the acoustics have changed. If anyone's speaking in here, if they could just take out the hallway. I'm really having a tough time. Thanks, Kate.
No problem. So to answer your question, Troy, Albany, Waterville have to still do their local laws. Okay. The other communities, Altamont passed their local law. They have to adopt their resolution still. So we're just entering to the finish line. We'll have all these wrapped up in the first 2 weeks of March. That's when we take all of that, the local law, the education and outreach plan, the draft opt-out letter, and we submit all of that to DPS, to the regulators, to show them what the communities have done. We need the filing letters with Department of State. They want to see that the local laws is filed, and they provide the approvals for us to go ahead and get the information we need to go to bid. So that's why the deadline coming up so quickly. I know you have new people on your council, and this was kind of a quick turnaround and steep learning curve to dive right into CCA as you came on. But that's the reason it's so quick, because we have a cohort of communities that are ready to go, and so we're just getting the city of Troy and Albany over the finish line with Waterville, and we should be headed there quickly.
Council President.
Councilmember
One more
Ashley
question.
McPherson.
Out of these communities that you're talking about, has any of them stopped the process?
Yes,
And who stopped the process?
the town of Knox. They chose not to go forward. Yeah.
No.
The town of Knox. Yeah, we did some education and outreach. They chose to not put their local law on the books. They wanted to wait. They said, we'll wait and see. We did education and outreach there. We had a public hearing. We had positive feedback, but it was the feeling of the council to wait. We've had other communities that have, contacted us to kind of explore, have us present to their board, see if they were up for it, if they wanted to, take it on. And, it was a tight time frame. So those communities that wanted to do it were really excited to do it and wanted to
Can I just
make
go
it a
back?
priority.
You're saying the only one that opted out was Knox?
Well, they did not pass their
Did
local
not,
law.
yeah.
They were on track to pass it in February, and they chose not to.
They
Is
have
that
the
the
official
only-
change.
Wait, is that the only one?
I think so. Yeah, no, that's the only one.
And Katie,
Yeah.
after the, say the RFP, after that expires, when you go out for a new one,
Mhm.
can other municipalities join?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So by then, those that kind of wanted to hang back say, all right, well, we don't want to be the first. We'll let Troy go first.
Guinea
Well,
pigs.
I think it's a relatively new program in New York too. I mean, Westchester did it, but they're Con Ed and they're downstate, and it was a different time, and it was a pilot then.
Right.
So I think a lot of communities, it's a big nut to crack. It's a big thing to take on, and thank you to all of you who have helped get the word out, get people to come to these community meetings. The goal right now is education and outreach. It's really talking to people, having meetings. It was a small group at the Italian Community Center, but we're going to be able to send out to their newsletter and reach people. It's a hard time of year to leave the house when it's cold or when you're under the weather. So, we're trying to use all the methods we can to make sure folks have heard about this and that they have the chance to ask questions.
I think you'll see more people at the East Side meeting. I think the General Services meeting. Hopefully, folks will come down. My big question, Katie,
Mhm.
is there's skepticism.
Yeah.
I mean, here you have government, you have nonprofit group.
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome that skepticism?
Yeah, I understand that quite a lot as a resident that's had to face that decision and looked at a flyer in the mail and thought, is this a good idea? Or thought about, those programs. Yes, the state has solar programs. Should I do this? It's a lot for a resident to take on educating themselves about independently. So it's a great thing when the city says, we're going to lead you down this path. We're going to help you understand more. I think a lot of the difficulties we have are misconceptions. And a lot of, people kind of react out of fear. And that's just a reflection of what the market has had to offer them thus far. People know that there's a lot of ways you can get taken advantage of in this industry. And so, that's why Louise and Nicole and I are so committed to this education and outreach effort. And you see us out here every night of the week because we really love talking to people about this and helping them understand how this is slightly different and how this can really empower them to work with their neighbors. These neighborhood association meetings are great. Everyone sits around and talks about what they love about their community. And it's really, it's a great thing. And this is a way they can say, hey, let's work together to do something that maybe individually we're a little bit afraid to do on our own or just don't have the time. This way, they can have some ownership of that choice and not have to do the heavy lifting of investigating it themselves. So I'm always encouraged. I've never had a conversation with a resident who came at me with questions and concerns and feeling like that this was something they were going to have to warn their neighbors about. No one ever walks away saying the same thing. They walk away saying, okay, they understand a little more, and that's my goal. That's my goal on this.
Yeah, I agree. Any further questions, discussions? All right, well, you have lots of meetings.
I do.
Coming up, and, we're going to keep pumping it on
Great.
Facebook, on Twitter, on the news, wherever we can get it out, because we're just trying to educate as many folks as possible. And,
Great.
The banner, we'll talk about that also, and
Okay.
talk to the deputy mayor about putting that up. Okay?
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Anna.
I thought I'd wake you up. There's a banner just to put up at a gateway or somewhere. We'll talk to you. Thank you again. All right. I will offer if anyone is coming after we called the public hearing, it is still open. If anyone would like to come up and speak, here's your last chance after hearing. Good. Now, this is still for CCA.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Come on, Carl, please. Okay. On that note, we will close the public hearing if that is all right. And thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Katie and Annie. We'll go into finance. Does anyone have to hit the restroom? Okay, all right. We're going to open the finance meeting at 6:15. And I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Steele, what would you read?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully. Here. Councilmember Edge McPherson. Present. Councilmember Steele. Here. Councilmember Cummings.
Present.
Councilmember Zaluski.
Here.
And Councilmember McDermott. Here. I always want to hyphenate your name, but you don't have it hyphenated. All right. We will go right into the finance. We will not be, just for folks before the public forum, we will not be voting on the local law this evening. The local law will be on the March 5th, which we'll be calling for prior to the regular meeting. Approval of the minutes.
I make a motion that we dispense with the approval.
I'll second it. Perfect. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Presentation of the agenda. As I stated, the local law will be on March 5th to be scheduled. Yes, council member.
Why wait until the March 5th to vote?
We have to wait for the public hearings. Yeah. Yeah.
Public hearing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Thank you. I caught that. I thought I emailed everybody, but yeah. presentation, we have a number of ordinances and resolutions, and we'll open it up for the public forum. I would ask anyone that would like to speak on any item on the agenda to come to the public forum. You'll have 5 minutes. State your name and address, please.
This one should be hopefully a little shorter than the last. My name's Carl Cacciati. Thanks for hearing me tonight. I'm here because my family's owned 4 parcels of land on the lower end of Carlisle Avenue,